Hey everybody, I'm Joshua Orro, the Mustang Prince, and welcome to Mustang Prince Orro Reports. Now, so far, it seems that I only have about 3 more blogs left to share with you before I begin my heartwarming Christmas marathon, and for this episode, I'd like to talk about the Smurfs again. Now, it's been a really long time since I talked about these little blue characters while blogging 2017 Smurfs The Lost Village, and to be honest, I think animated Smurfs is a lot better than the live action Smurfs, which ran from 2011 to 2013. However, during late 2024, thanks to a certain Zoom meeting with one Matt Brunet, aka Animat, I learned that the Smurfs would get a new animated film, and of course, that's the subject of my blog today. Released on July 18th, 2025, the movie is Smurfs. So, on for the plot of the movie. The film follows a new unnamed Smurf who one day gains magical powers, inadvertently opening portals that accidentally lead to Gargamel's brother, Razamel, who captures Papa Smurf and threatens the universe. This forces Smurfette and the other Smurfs on a quest through Paris and the Australian outback to find Papa and stop Razamel's world-dominating plan, all while No Name grapples with finding his identity and his destiny. So, what are my thoughts on this new film? Well, to be quite honest, it was really funny, and it was a very thrilling adventure, and you better believe I really enjoyed it, but maybe not as much as Lost Village. Also, I recently heard that while it did gain about $124.1 million out of its $58 million budget, this happened. And the main reason why it bombed was due to the film going over budget, and its underperformance played a part in Paramount Animation president Ramsey Naito being laid off in October. And anyway, before I get ahead of myself, let's head over to Mustang Notes. Now, in February 2022, it was reported that the Payo Company, the owners of the Smurfs brand, had agreed to a partnership with Paramount Animation to produce multiple animated Smurfs films, with the first project being a musical. Pam Brady, who in the past wrote these 2 craft animated films, along with Hot Rod, The Bubble, Ruby Gillman and Teenage Kraken, and the recent SpongeBob movie, was attached to write the screenplay, with production set to begin later that year. By June 2022, Chris Miller, who was the voice of Kowalski the Penguin and the Magic Mirror, and the director of Shrek the Third and Puss in Boots, had been hired to direct the film. Animation services were provided by Cinesite, who has helped with animation for films like 2017's The Star, Charming, the 2 animated Addams Family films, Paws of Fury, The Legend of Hank, and of course, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mutant Mayhem. Now, I must mention that this is one of the last 2 animated films I saw in theaters before I left the US to go on my European family vacation. And what's special is that I got to see it with a few friends from Vocational Visions. And in my opinion, this style of CGI for the Smurfs is pretty different. Not as good as Lost Village's style, but still pretty good. And I think it's a huge upgrade from the 2 live-action versions. Plus, I think it kind of stays true to the comics a bit, due to some parts looking almost 2D. Also, I find it interesting that the Smurfs are descendants of 3 Guardian Smurfs. Also, while the live-action parts can be pretty confusing, I like that the movie features Paris, just like in Smurfs 2, since that was the first of my European destinations. Also to note, One of my favorite scenes in this movie is the interdimensional chase scene, which includes stop motion animation, Japanese anime, and 8-bit. And I think some of the comedy is pretty funny. As for the songs, well, in my personal opinion, the soundtrack is a bit of a mixed bag. However, some of my favorite musical numbers include Friend of Mine, Always on the Outside, and Everything Goes with Blue. And that's all I got for Mustang notes. So, let's move on to the characters and their voice actors. Let's start with our new main character, No Name, voiced by James Corden, whom I got to talk about in my blogs of Into the Woods, 2019's Cats, DreamWorks Trolls, the Peter Rabbit films, Smallfoot, and of course, the Emoji Movie. Now, this character is a neurotic outsider struggling with an identity crisis because he's the only Smurf without a defining trait or thing. This leads him to be anxious, uncoordinated, and having low self-esteem. Throughout the movie, No Name discovers that he has magical abilities, which were first bestowed upon him by a sentient book named Jaunty. And after defeating the villain Razamel, he embraces his powers and takes on the new name of Magic Smurf. Next we come to the leader of the Smurfs, Papa Smurf, voiced by the lovable John Goodman, whom I remember from films like We're Back, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer the movie, Pixar's Monsters, Inc. movies, Disney's The Emperor's New Groove, The Jungle Book 2, The Princess and the Frog, 2007 Speed Racer, Laika's Paranorman, and of course, Patriots Day. During this movie, Papa is mysteriously kidnapped by the evil wizard Razamel and taken to the real world. In my opinion, Papa is still a wise leader like he was in the previous 3 films, and I like that this movie explores Papa's personal history while introducing his 2 brothers, Ken and Ron. Next we come to the beautiful Smurfette, voiced by artist Rihanna, who not only serves as the film's producer, but she's also whom I remember as the voice of Tip from DreamWorks Home. Plus, she sang some of my favorite songs like Stay, Disturbia, Shut Up and Drive, and We Found Love. Anyway, in this film, Smurfette takes a central leadership role, leading her fellow Smurfs on a daring mission to rescue Papa. In my eyes, despite her history with Gargamel, Smurfette is kind, fearless, determined, tough, independent, and spunky. And she makes a very empathetic mentor, and I like that she's extremely loyal to her Smurf family. Plus, I think Rihanna's voice is absolutely amazing, while portraying Smurfette as a skilled beautician. And like I said earlier, I think her song, Friend of Mine, is absolutely catchy to listen to. The other Smurfs in the film include Vanity Smurf, voiced by Maya Erkren, Hefty Smurf, voiced by Alex Winter, Worry Smurf, voiced by Billy Lord, Brainy Smurf, voiced by Zolo Meriduena, Grouchy Smurf, voiced by director Chris Miller, and Turtle, voiced by Marshmallow. Next on our list is Papa's brother, Ken, voiced by Nick Offerman, who voiced Whiskers the Fox in Princess Sophia's second Christmas episode, Winter's Gift, Norman in Illumination's Sing movies, Jonathan's dad Mike in Hotel Transylvania 2, and he also got to be in, We're the Millers. Anyway, I think Ken has got to be my favorite new Smurf character ever. To me, he's rather serious about things such as his job of traveling through dimensions, his duty of protecting everybody, and remembering why he has conflict with others. He is also quite the quick-witted smooth talker when it comes to making deals, and he's also good at insults. Plus, Ken is also much more gruff than his brothers, but has a somewhat sweet spot for them due to their history. Also to note, I think his daughter Moxie Smurf, voiced by Sandra Oh in her 6th animated voice role, is quite a no-nonsense and courageous Smurf, kind of like Smurfstorm from Lost Village. Next we come to Mother Poot, voiced by Natasha Lyonne, whom was in Dennis the Menace, American Pie, Blue Skies Robots, DC's League of Super Pets, and she was in The Bad Guys 2 and the MCU's Fantastic Four First Steps. This character is the leader of the Snooter Poots, a shaggy race of feathery creatures known for pickpocketing travelers whom the Smurfs encounter in the Australian outback. To me, Mother Poot can be deeply protective when it comes to keeping her clan safe, but she can also be charmingly eccentric, humorous, and authentic. And she can also be open to romance as well. Another character to talk about is Jaunty, voiced by Amy Sedaris, whom I talked about in my blogs of Shrek the Third, Puss in Boots, Disney's Chicken Little, and she was in Bewitched and Jennifer's Body. Now, Jaunty is a magical book who initially aids No Name by providing him with magical powers. To me, this character is very compassionate and empathetic. She can be highly sensitive. She has an allergy to cats like Azrael, and I think Amy Sedaris gives her a very witty personality. But despite her good nature, she can be easily corruptible, like when Razamel exposes her to dark magic and turns her into an evil spellbook. Finally, we come to the movie's villains, Gargamel and his brother Razamel, both voiced by J.P. Karliak, whom I remember as the voice of Willy Wonka from the terrible animated Tom and Jerry crossover. Now, we Smurf fans know that Gargamel has been trying countless attempts at capturing the Smurfs in order to harness their powers. And in my eyes, while he is a skilled sorcerer, I still find Gargamel to be pretty silly, while his cat Azrael does act pretty clever. As for his brother Razamel, well, I find him to be a bit more evil, powerful, and intelligent than Gargamel. Plus, I think it's kind of bizarre that he lives in a castle in real-world Munich. Throughout this movie, Razamel is hunting for Jaunty so that he can use all 4 evil magical books in order to take over the universe and destroy all goodness. Plus, I thought it was very, very harsh when Razamel betrays Gargamel, which leads to a temporary truce between Gargamel and the Smurfs to defeat him. Other voices in the film include Dan Levy, Jimmy Kimmel, Octavia Spencer, Nick Kroll, Hannah Waddingham, and Kurt Russell. And now, on to my final words. Overall, the 2025 Smurfs movie is a pretty good animated film. Not exactly perfect, but still enjoyable nonetheless. The animation is decent, and I like that it's trying to stay true to the comics. Several characters are very memorable, like Smurfette and Papa Smurf. The main character, No Name, is a very relatable guy due to him trying to find his identity. I like the new supporting characters like Ken and Mama Poot, and I thought Razamel was a very promising villain, and he was a lot more threatening compared to his brother Gargamel. Also, while some of the songs were a bit of a mixed bag to me, a few of them were still pretty catchy, and I thought the live action parts were a little bit confusing, even though Paris was the most nostalgic. Anyway, if you folks are still Smurf fans, then I think you might want to check this movie out and share it with your kids and your friends if possible. As for my rating, I'm going to give it an 85% out of 100. Well, that's all for now, folks. Be sure to join me next time where we reunite with the bad guys. Mustang power.